I remember a season when my life felt like one long meeting that never quite ended. I'd walk through the front door with a smile still glued to my face, the polite one, the careful one. And inside I was still scanning for hidden agendas that didn't exist in my own living room. But my son didn't need a manager. He needed a dad. And my wife didn't want a strategist. She wanted me, present, relaxed, human. Still, my mind stayed stuck in office gear. I'd sit on the couch, nodding at a cartoon or a story, while a part of me kept editing a spreadsheet somewhere far away. One evening, my boy looked up and asked a question so simple, it made the whole house go quiet. "Dad, are you here? Or are you still at work?" That one landed like a soft punch. Because he was right. My body had arrived. The rest of me was still driving home. A few days later, something ordinary changed everything. Not therapy, not a grand plan. A jacket. My old college hoodie. Faded blue, elbows worn thin, zipper a little crooked. That weekend, I shut my laptop, reached for it, and pulled it on. And something happened. It was as if my brain recognized the signal before I did. The tension slipped off my shoulders. I caught myself laughing at small things again, the way you do when you're not performing for anyone. That's when it hit me. This wasn't symbolic. It was physical. The hoodie had become a switch. It told my mind, "You're home now. You can stop performing. You can start being." From that moment, I became fascinated by a simple truth that hides in plain sight. Our minds are complex, but they're trained by the simplest cues. A smell in the hallway, a familiar song in the kitchen, a piece of clothing that carries 10 years of Saturdays in its fabric. The body leads the mind. Change one small signal, and your emotions often follow. You can argue with yourself for an hour about how you should feel, or you can change one thing you can touch and let your nervous system do the rest. Since that day, I've started to notice how often we live on autopilot, carrying yesterday's roles into today's moments. We leave one room but never really leave the mindset that belonged there. And yet, the smallest ritual can draw the line. A clear signal that says, this space is different, and so am I. These days, before I step into a one-on-one with someone on my team, I reach for what I call my mentor glasses. They're not fancy, thin rims, a little scratched, nothing special to look at. But the moment I put them on, something inside me shifts. I stop being the boss, the one who solves and directs. I become a guide. My shoulders lower, my tone softens. I start listening for what a person means, not just what they say. And the change doesn't happen only in me. People feel it. They lean in, they open up. They sense that this moment belongs to conversation, not correction. The same happens in reverse. When I step on stage to speak, I always reach for one specific pen. Silver, smooth, a little heavier than the rest. I hold it for a moment, and my hand remembers every successful talk it's guided me through. That tiny bit of weight brings me back to confidence before I say a single word. We all have our versions of that pen, that hoodie, those glasses, objects that tell the body who we're about to become. You don't even have to believe in them. Your brain already does. Because symbols speak faster than logic, and the brain obeys symbols before it listens to reason. You can't talk yourself into calmness, but you can step into it. One cue, one gesture, one switch at a time. At home, this little discovery grew into something more, a rhythm, almost like a quiet ceremony that separates work from life. Every Friday evening, I hang up my blazer, close the laptop, and reach for that same old hoodie. The moment it touches my shoulders, my whole body exhales. It's as if the fabric itself whispers, "You're done performing. You're home." My daughter laughs and calls it the dad uniform. She'll shout from across the room, "The hoodie's on! No more emails tonight!" And she's right. That's the rule. Once it's on, I'm no longer a manager, no longer the strategist, the planner, the fixer. I'm just dad, the guy who burns pancakes and tells bad jokes and listens with both ears. Over time, that small ritual stopped being a joke and started becoming a doorway back into presence. Because when the hoodie goes on, my tone changes, my pace slows down, my eyes stay on the people I love instead of drifting toward the next notification. And on Monday morning, when I fold it away, I feel clean, reset, ready for the new week without guilt or confusion, because my mind knows exactly where home ends and work begins. One evening, I shared this idea with a friend of mine, a high school teacher who also volunteers as a firefighter. He nodded and said, "The moment I pull on that heavy jacket, I stop being a teacher. My body knows. Now I'm the one who runs into the fire, not away from it." He smiled. "The gear tells me who to be." And that's when I realized something deeper. The clothes don't make the man. They remind him which man he needs to be in that moment. Here's where it gets fascinating. You don't even need a hoodie or a uniform to change how you show up. Sometimes, all it takes is a gesture. Something small, deliberate, and deeply personal. When I'm preparing for a tough conversation, I do one simple thing. I take a slow breath and touch my wedding ring. That single motion reminds me of who I am outside the office walls. A husband, a father, a man who's learned that empathy outlasts any argument. And just like that, my tone softens, my patience returns, because I remember what really matters. Tiny cue, big shift. You see, every one of us carries these silent triggers, little switches the body recognizes faster than thought. They can be a smell, a sound, a motion, a piece of jewelry, even a song. Each one whispers to the nervous system, "This is who you are now." A soldier stands taller the moment he feels the weight of his uniform. A musician's breath slows the instant she holds her instrument. The body remembers long before the mind catches up. That's why rituals work. They train the brain to recognize states of being. You might spend an hour trying to reason yourself into calmness, or you can light a candle, roll up your sleeves, take one deep breath, and your whole nervous system gets the message, "We're safe. We're ready. We're here." It's not superstition. It's science. What psychologists call context-dependent memory. When you repeat an action in the same emotional state, your brain wires them together. Do it enough times, and the action becomes a bridge, a physical shortcut back into that state. That's not magic. That's neuroplasticity, the brain learning through pattern. And here's the quiet miracle of it. Once you start noticing these anchors,
You realize they've been with you all along. That mug you always hold when you write, that seat by the window where you think best, that walk you take when you need clarity. They're not random habits, they're doorways, tiny physical invitations that tell your mind, step into this version of yourself.
Let's make this simple and real. If every gesture, every object, every small act can guide who we become in the moment, then why not use that power on purpose? Why not build our own anchors, small, human switches that remind us who to be, right when we need it most? Here's how I started. I chose 2 roles that mattered most in my week, the ones that pulled me in opposite directions. For me, it was the leader and the parent, the man who gives direction and the man who listens without giving any. Then I gave each role a symbol, something I could see, touch, or wear. For leadership, it was a pen, the same silver one I hold before every important meeting. For parenting, it was that old hoodie. Each time I entered one of those roles, I'd use its anchor. No overlap, no confusion. The pen never left my desk at home. The hoodie never followed me into work. And something beautiful happened. The moment I reached for one or the other, my mind clicked into the right rhythm. The pen meant focus, confidence, clarity. The hoodie meant softness, warmth, laughter. Within days, I didn't even have to think about it. My body knew. The cues did the work for me. And that's what anchors really are. Gentle teachers. They don't demand discipline. They offer direction. They whisper to your nervous system, this is who you are right now. You might choose your own symbols, a bracelet, a chair, a particular song, even a candle you light before you write or pray or plan. Anything that tells your mind we're crossing a line from one world to another. The key is consistency. Use it only for that one role, because repetition turns action into meaning, meaning turns into memory, and memory into identity. Before long, your brain doesn't just recognize the signal, it trusts it. That's the moment the click happens. The quiet transition where you stop pretending and start being. Once you've chosen your anchors, give them time to breathe. Don't rush the process. Let your body learn the signal naturally. Try it for 7 days. 7 days of using each cue only when you enter its matching role. Wear the parent hoodie only when you're with your kids. Carry the mentor pen only when you're guiding someone. Light that candle only when you write. At first, it might feel small, even silly. But by the 3rd or 4th day, something subtle begins to happen. You'll feel the shift before you think about it. That soft inner click when your body whispers, I know this place. After a week, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, which anchors felt alive? Which ones came naturally and which felt like a costume? Replace the ones that didn't resonate, because the right anchor doesn't feel forced, it feels like home. You don't have to act it out, you simply fall into it. A colleague once told me, the best rituals are invisible from the outside, but unmistakable inside. He was right. When you find the right cue, it stops being a trick. It becomes a truth. And here's what's beautiful. The world around you begins to feel that change. People respond to the energy shift without ever noticing the object that caused it. They sense presence, focus, warmth, all from a tiny invisible ritual you built quietly within yourself. Because anchors aren't really about the objects. They're about ownership. Each time you use one,
You remind your mind that you are the author of your attention. You decide which page of your life you're reading from. You are not your inbox. You are not your stress. You are not the noise that chases you from one room to another. You are the one who chooses, and these rituals are your reminders.
Over time, these small rituals began to do something deeper than I expected. They didn't just organize my day, they began to organize my heart. Each time I switched roles with intention, I felt a quiet kind of peace. The kind that doesn't need applause. It's the peace that comes from clarity, from knowing who you are right here, right now. You see, the mind loves clarity, the heart loves permission, and anchors give you both. When I put on that hoodie before dinner, I wasn't just getting comfortable. I was giving myself permission to stop striving and start listening. When I picked up my pen before a meeting, I wasn't chasing authority. I was stepping into purpose. And that small shift, repeated again and again, began to rebuild something I hadn't realized I'd lost: self-trust. Because each time you honor your own signals, your mind starts to believe you again. It learns that when you say, "I'm home," you mean it. When you say, "I'm ready," you are. That's how confidence grows, not from speeches or strategies, but from consistency. A friend of mine once said, "Peace isn't about slowing down, it's about being in the right gear." That line stuck with me, because that's what these identity switches really do. They change the gear of your inner life. They remind you that you can be calm without being passive, focused without being cold, strong without being distant, and kind without losing your edge. When you learn that rhythm, that dance between the roles you play, life starts to flow again. The days stop blurring into each other. Moments begin to breathe. And you realize something simple and liberating. You don't have to become one perfect version of yourself. You just have to be the right version for this moment, for these people, for this breath. So tonight, before the day ends, I want to leave you with this. Every one of us crosses invisible thresholds every single day, from leader to listener, from parent to friend, from dreamer to doer. Most people stumble through them without ever noticing, but you can walk through them with grace. Because identity switching isn't pretending. It's honoring the truth that you are more than one thing. You can be bold in the morning and gentle by evening. You can give direction at work and still come home ready to listen. That's not inconsistency. That's emotional intelligence in motion. You might start to see your own anchors appear everywhere. The coffee mug that tells your brain it's time to create. The shoes you slip off to remind your body to rest. The song you play before every big moment because it reminds you of who you've always been. These aren't random habits. They're rituals of becoming. Small, sacred signals that tell your heart it's safe to arrive. And here's the miracle. When you move through your day this way, transitions stop feeling like whiplash. They start feeling like choreography. Each cue, each symbol, each breath becomes a step in the dance of being fully alive. So tomorrow, choose 2 roles that shape your world. Give each one its own anchor, an object, a gesture, a sound. Use them with intention and watch what happens. Your focus will sharpen, your energy will steady, your presence will deepen. Because peace doesn't come from doing less. It comes from being where you are, completely. And when you learn to arrive like that, every door, every meeting, every evening at home becomes more than just another moment. It becomes a small ceremony of returning to yourself. So tonight, as you set your things down and take that first quiet breath, remember this gentle truth. You can't control every storm, but you can choose the coat you wear through it. And sometimes, that's all it takes to feel like yourself again. You know, as I sit here tonight, thinking back on everything we've talked about, the hoodie, the pen, the ring, the quiet shifts between who we were and who we need to be, I feel something I haven't always felt at the end of a long day. Peace. Not because everything went perfectly, not because I made all the right choices, but because I know where I am, right here, right now. And that's the whole secret, isn't it? It's not about mastering life. It's about arriving in it. It's about showing up one breath, one moment, one gentle transition at a time. So, if you take anything from this story, let it be this. Don't rush your way through the doors of your life. Notice them. Honor them. Step through them with awareness. And when you cross into a new role, father, friend, creator, dreamer, take a second to greet yourself there. Say quietly, I'm here now. Because every role you play, every version of you, deserves that moment of arrival. That small acknowledgement that says, this part matters too. Life will keep changing its scenes, its light, its sound. But if you carry a few simple anchors, a gesture, an object, a breath, you'll always have a way home to yourself. And maybe that's what peace really is. Not a destination, but a signal. One that says, you're safe to be who you are right now. So tonight, before you close your eyes, take a slow breath. Let the noise settle. Feel the weight of the day leave your shoulders, and whisper to yourself the simplest truth there is. You did enough. You are enough. And you can begin again tomorrow. And as the night settles in, I hope you feel it too. That quiet space between the noise and the next beginning. The hum of stillness that reminds you, you made it through today. You've given enough, spoken enough, cared enough. Somewhere out there, the world is still rushing. Phones glowing, engines running, minds spinning. But not here. Not right now. Here, you can rest. You can breathe. You can let the day unclench its hands and fade gently into memory. Because tomorrow will bring its own doors to open, its own light to step into. And when it does, you'll be ready. Not because you've mastered everything, but because you've learned how to return to yourself. That's the quiet gift of awareness. It doesn't change the world outside. It changes how you walk through it. So, as you turn out the lights tonight, Take one last calm breath. Let gratitude settle where worry once lived. And remember, you are allowed to pause. You are allowed to start over. You are allowed to be fully, beautifully human. Tomorrow may never come exactly as you planned, but tonight is here, waiting for you to rest in it completely. And in that stillness, life begins again.